So, excuse me, we got kind of a long agenda for today, but we're gonna make time for something that's, really special. And we got a couple people in the room, and Crystal Zaliska, the Financial Assistant Supervisor for Western Prairie, and Stacy Hennon. And, I'm gonna let Crystal do the honors as far as the specifics. Why don't you two, so we can all see you, come up here, Stacy and Crystal. Center stage. Stacy received quite an award, and I'm gonna let Crystal take away from there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. The Center for Advanced Studies in Child Welfare and the University of Minnesota honors an award called the Child Welfare Leadership Award. This award recognizes Minnesota leaders for their outstanding contributions to child welfare practices. And it is a great honor that this year's recipient just so happens to be our very own Director of Western Prairie Human Services, Stacy Hennon. This award is not something you can nominate a person for. The person is chosen as their work is publicly recognized. Stacy represents the true model of servant-style leadership, and she doesn't do it for the recognition, but simply for the people. Stacy shows up every day to chase her vision of serving the residents of Minnesota, specifically Grant, Hope, and Traverse counties. Through this award, Stacy is recognized for her services to the children of Minnesota, only wanting what is best for them while trying to get an equal opportunity at life when their paths are different from that of their peers. Stacy ensures these families have a voice at legislature and is always contemplating what is best for each person served in human services. Her use of collaborative safety model and healthy boundaries are represented when in collaboration with other public entities, challenging growth and development through change management and leading the best case scenarios for the persons being served. The continued support of the Western Prairie Human Services Board and her family is often shared in her stories as she continues on her leadership path. Stacy knows the importance of having difficult conversations as an advocate for small counties, and it is with grace and kindness that she influences change where it matters most. With that being said, please help me in congratulating Stacy Hennon for being the 2024 recipient of the Child Welfare Leadership Award and our director.
Stacy?
No, just thank you.
I do want to thank you, and one of the things that at the Western Prairie meeting that one of her staff mentioned, it's not only the children, but she works hard for everybody in her profession, and she's got a great team around her, and so we're going to be really thankful, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll call for an approval of the agenda. Your motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Got a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Motion to approve the minutes.
I will make the motion to approve the minute.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Who was the second? Me.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we got approval of warrants.
I'll make a motion to pay the warrants. Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Our 9-10 is not here yet.
Can we do the opioid discussion?
Yes. That's, thank you, I was just said that. I see we did get an email at 8:17, thank you, Chad, so we should. Have some discussion as far as, this was. Looked at by Justin, it was patterned after one of, I think, Stevens County's. So probably one of the questions would be, maybe not so much the document, would be is if this can fit into your wheelhouse, Chad, until we get a county coordinator in place. I suppose we have to have someone lead this. Does it work for you?
Yeah, if somebody's, yeah.
So, I mean, that would be a discussion point if we need to address it, that one, there was that communication about that one check, would that come back and we
That's taken care of.
okay, so that is.
This is that email, I haven't seen that email, this is. Yep, it's the same. Just look right. Is this what you called the office about yesterday, Ken?
Yes,
I was out yesterday.
Yeah.
afternoon.
and I sent you an email, thank you for. That's pretty short notice, but. So I didn't see you had it printed, so yes, this is the email.
So is it one night money or is it coming in increments like for 16 years or something like that?
It's coming over a long period of time. Right now, I go back and find my emails. This is that same money, you know, that they, I went out this year earlier about.
You're right.
I don't know exactly all the details of everything. There's a local committee, and there's a statement on that. I have not been in those meetings.
So it's about the federal opioid settlement, and the money will come in increments over the next 17 years. Depending upon the settlements, it's about all those federal settlements for opioid, from both pharmaceutical companies and from pharmacies that overprescribe basically. And so how much money we have will depend upon how companies, how they settle. So some did all theirs at once, some did over 17 years, some, it just depends. And the total amount will depend upon, like, some companies are in bankruptcy, and so, how that bankruptcy settles out, and then they'll have new lawsuits that are adding into it. I think after the first year, all 87 counties opted into all further settlements too, so we'll automatically be entered in to any further settlement that comes into Minnesota too, and Minnesota's entered into it as well. So I think we have around $35,000 to $40,000 in it right now. Yeah, we just got another deposit, so right around 40,000. And there's the committee that's made up of, like, the sheriff is on it, I think, and us, and the county commissioner, public health, emergency, Tina's on there. So, and the hospitals also, they come to it, and so does, like, different community members, schools are invited. And the grant funds are open to anyone who can use them within the kind of the boundaries of the grant. So far, we've had our Child and Youth Collaborative actually use some of the grants for some of the programs in the schools that she's done, that Kari has done. So and she's got a few more requests, I think, that will come in. But we needed a way to distribute the money that is trackable for us so that our audit trail is clean. So this is just, I think Chad did a nice job, really. It's just kind of a way that you guys will approve it, and then a contract that the people we give it to sign that shows that it's gonna be utilized in the way we say it is. So we can go back and I do the annual reporting for this, so that I can go back and do the annual reporting and clearly see where the money was spent, how it was spent, and what we did with it. We haven't spent any up until 2024. So I just did 2023's annual report, but we did spend some this year, so we just need a process for it. So this is just the process for how you're going to approve it, and then what you're gonna have them sign and kind of where that will rest. It looks like it'll rest right now with, I mean, Chad will get this out and collect it and maintain it, like his office cuts the checks for it. The money sits in the treasurer and the auditor's office, however they do that. I have access to the account, but so do Jamie and Chad. I do the reports. I don't have access to like I can't deposit and withdraw money. That's not my gig. That's theirs. I just do the reports for it.
And that total multi-district litigation, was that like 350 million the state received?
The one that just came in, yes, they've received overall, yeah, it was,
350 million or something like that, but we're based on per capita on
yes.
these numbers.
Well,
So
per
that's why.
capita, and then there's some data that came into counties years, or that they took from counties years ago that is based, it's a weird formula. Yeah, but it's based on a formula. So any new settlement that comes in, they'll just apply that same formula. We'll get whatever that percentage is for Grant County. And then it just keeps applying, and the grant can go for it does go for 17 years. So this settlement
Something
does.
like that.
Mhm.
So we'd received email earlier, and there'd been examples from Amy from Horizon, from Douglas Pope,
Yep.
Stevens in Traverse County, and Justin looked at him and he recommended the one that now Chad is lift up for what it relates to.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to accept the opioid grant agreement for Grant County?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
For a second,
I'll second it.
any additional discussion?
So what are we approving? We're just approving this form to use. This is, they're gonna be our document we're using.
Yep. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Chad, do you want me to send this to Amy so she has it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Cool. Here, Kyle, Jeff was supposed to be here for a really short. I'll see if I can wing it a little bit. Did you visit with her some, Chad? So she's applying for a grant for $15,000, they need a fiscal host. And the grant was due prior to this meeting, and I said, well, I guess they don't know if they were getting the grant, so go ahead and get it in by the timeline, and then you can come to the meeting and explain it. And we can agree to be the fiscal host or not. It seemed in her estimation to make most sense for what the parameters of the grant was to have it at the county level. I don't know that I can properly address exactly what it is. I do know that she had another appointment she had to be at, so she's late for this one. She'll be late for the next one.
But, Mr. Chair, does she just need an approval? Will be she don't even know if we're getting the grant.
Right, and so we'd be,
So if we just say we'll be the fiscal host, that should cover her.
yes, I'll see if I can find your email. Yeah, yes, that's what,
I read it. Has anybody asked the auditor's office about an opinion on this?
well, we did talk, so Chad, would you render a little bit of input on it, or? Can
Well, I
you?
was much like everything else in life, there are no less. Few months, I need to apply for this today.
I didn't quite hear what you said. I didn't quite hear what you said, excuse me.
Well, I said, we got the email today, it was
Yes,
just like everything else in the last 3 months.
I fully
And,
agree with you, and it's,
so And so after talking back and forth or emailing, I believe you had called me or emailed me and said, provide information from Grant County just to apply.
Yeah,
It's through the West Central Initiative Fund Ferguson. So it's not
it's $15,000.
It's not a federal grant, which I don't know that it makes any difference, but it's a local grant.
Yeah.
So we supplied the information that we needed to be the fiscal host for 15,000. It's similar to that of like I think I said, you like the small mill club that we would get the funds, write the check, give the whatever organization is applied,
It's kind of into that change makers program.
change something.
Yeah,
So she has applied for it already. It's
yeah.
what I was instructed to do and kind of move it after the fact, I guess.
Yeah, she needed to get it in and I said we'd address it and, but I would. One thing about it is if. We don't know if we're gonna have it, if something come up, when the time came, if we needed to change it for today. I guess if you're comfortable. Flying under the radar and making the motion, I trust Kari, I mean, she works hard at what she does and. Like I say, it's. Thoughts,
Well, as a member of the Challenge Council, if you're looking for a motion, Mr. Chair, I will make that motion.
okay? We have a motion, is there a second to be the fiscal host for this grant that Kari Crafts applied for change makers in the community?
I'll second.
Okay, additional discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. US Fish and Wildlife, we have some visitors here. Yeah, you have to grab another chair there.
Morning, I'd like to thank the board for their time this morning. My name is Blake Nisley. I'm a realty specialist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And this is Paul Perkite representing the city of Herman. Did everyone receive the information packet we sent about the proposed easement?
Yeah.
So this is a perpetual habitat easement for approximately 185 acres in section 33 and 34 of Maxville Township that the city of Herman owns. I think the map we sent you showed like 220. It has since been pared down a bit. We're getting closer to finalizing a survey out there, so that's why the acres have changed. We're here because we have a agreement with the state that will present all habitat easements that we acquire using Migratory Bird Fund to the county for certification. Final approval comes from the Land Exchange Board down at the state capitol with the governor, the auditor, and the attorney general. Do we have any questions or concerns about the proposal?
I got one question. The city of Herman will still own this, right?
Correct, yep.
And they're paid X amount of dollars for the 100-year easement. Is that the deal or is it just forever?
Yeah, it's a perpetual easement, so it's forever. Yep, they'll get a one-time payment for the management rights to the habitat out there.
Okay, I think our plan is to put that into a CD or an income bearing fund and use the interest off of that to maintain the park as long as we can maintain it. We're just looking at it's about the only way we can generate any revenue off of that. And hopefully it keeps that park going for many years.
Then I see that they'll be able to hay that.
Yeah, certain dates and deadlines. Yeah.
Yep, they have the right to hay it after nesting season. We use the date of July 15th for that. There's no requirement to hay, but they may cut hay out.
They can.
Yep.
So can they do it every year or is it every so many years or what?
They can hay it as often as they want, as long as it's after that nesting season date,
That's like August, something,
July 15th.
or July.
Yep.
As far as aesthetics and things like that, you guys aren't gonna gives you, it doesn't give you the right to take trees out or anything like that.
They can cut trees on the portion of the habitat easement. The bulk of the trees that were included in, around the park infrastructure were excluded from the easement. I can pass that around. That's kind of the proposed easement, but, not finalized survey, but on the map I sent on the east chunk, there's kind of a black parcel line. They just kind of cut it off there. So the trees, most of the trees that are in the park will stay outside of
The majority of the park out. So,
But if
and
you're hanging it, you're not gonna have trees.
no, I think, you know, the CRP stuff, looking stuff. They are gonna go in and remove the Russian olives and the brush that's grown up over the last 15 years. I think it'll be good for that. And I don't foresee anybody hanging it, but perpetual's a long time.
Well, you never know, it might be a dry year and.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody needs it.
So they'd still be able to sell the hanging rights, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they can rent it out, they do whatever, yep. Yeah, we like to keep some use on the property just because otherwise it goes to trees and which is kind of counter to what we're hoping for, so.
So are the grasses that are there, the grasses you want there?
I think for the most part, the grasses are a decent mix. I'm not the biologist, but then the plan that I saw, I don't think there's any intent to go and reseed the whole thing. I think it's more scattered tree removal and any smaller wetlands out there that can be restored, they'll probably restore. I think it's.
It's been, excuse me, go ahead.
I was gonna ask Paul if he knew with Sean when he talked to him, was he talking about reseeding at all? I don't think so.
He talked a little bit and that they're gonna come out and touch up some areas.
Okay.
And then they said they would probably do that little area up by the park for us with
Okay.
some native flowers and stuff like that, so.
Well, it's a beautiful piece of property. I know it pretty well.
People hunt it.
We do not, never allowed hunting in there. I'm not saying that we couldn't, we're trying to figure out. Actually, I've been trying to talk or look at what Ortonville does with their golf course. They do like a lottery archery hunt. You know, we should thin out some of the deer in there, but at the same time, it's more of a safety issue too. And we have a new caretaker coming in now that the former caretakers didn't want any hunting. So
They're gonna live in the house there then?
he will, yeah.
So when you referred to I, was that the city of Herman?
Yeah,
Or you're representing that?
yeah,
Yeah. Commissioner Spear, this is in your wheelhouse. You got, want to render any idea or thoughts on it?
It doesn't really affect me, I'm right beside it, but.
What about taxes on that property? Is that?
Never said
It
that.
never
never
has
has been taxed because the city's always owned it. Yeah, so it's pretty much tax neutral.
Well, if you can generate money to, help maintain the place, why wouldn't you do this?
That's what we said, you know, it's kind of been locked up into a program for so many years, and this is a way that we could hopefully perpetually.
Yeah.
Taking 10 grand a year off the interest, hopefully, and.
Yeah.
Put
It's
it
never
back,
been
put it
farmed.
back into the park.
You never farmed it, right? Or
They used to farm it when it was first, when the city first bought it from Whitey Nemackle. Back in the early 70s.
Yeah, it was building, but yeah, it was.
You farmed the front part of it for a while, didn't you? And then I think the back Adolph DeVore did, but it hasn't been farmed. Probably since the early 80s, probably.
No,
Is there any food plots out there?
No, we used to do like the corn maze up there and then they just leave that for food.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that too, either putting a food plot there and then, I think Sean mentioned putting natural flowers and prairie flowers. I think that'd be probably more fitting for a park setting.
Nobody gets charged to use this, right? It's just public setting, or is there?
The only thing they get charged for is the camping. There's
Okay.
12 camping sites, you can see them. So that's what generates the revenue right now. Then we pay the caretaker a token a month to do the mowing and maintaining and help with the reservations and check the garbages, toilets and stuff for the camping.
Maybe you guys want Pine Ridge Park? Same time.
No, I think one's enough.
Dang. So the city of Herman owns this and they see a benefit financially.
Yeah.
What are the general public difference? Is there a negative that we wouldn't be aware of that someone else may experience?
The only negative that I've heard, and we've been talking about doing this for about 5 years, and I've had a couple guys that farm next to it were just wondering about, when the Fish and Wildlife comes in, one, cutting down all the trees, two, damming up water, that it backs up or their tiles are no longer usable. And I think we've had that conversation with, Sean, who's
Yeah,
what was his?
he's the private lands biologist for the district, so he's kind of the main point man for the habitat.
Like some money man, Sean's the guy that kind of puts the program together, and to me, I can't see any negatives that I can think of. Besides the fact that it's perpetual, but it's kind of perpetually in a program already, but
Can't do nothing else with it. with
no.
So you mentioned the potential water. Is there?
I don't think,
If there's a potential, is there a resolution if there is a problem? Or is it just?
I think it's gotta be agreed on by us, and, from what they're looking at doing, it's the couple little wetlands inside, that I don't think that
I think they were on the map we sent. Typically, we'll never backwater onto a neighbor. If we do, they'll resolve it. I mean, if they put in a dike, like beavers and ants or something where it's causing a problem, we'll work with the neighbor to renew it or to fix it. The existing drain tile that's out there, that's underground, typically is allowed to be maintained. We'll probably work with them and put a non-perforated tile underneath the part that's in an easement, but if it's there, we'll work with to maintain it. New stuff would have to be by permit through the office in Fergus Falls, and I can't speak for them. I'm sure it'll be a case by case basis on how they view it, but
And actually, most of the stuff to the east for quite a ways is owned either by DNR, Fish and Wildlife. There's few spots in there that are privately owned, but I would say that section, a lot of the land is publicly owned already.
In so we have the information and the certification in our packet. Is there a motion to accept the certification of the?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the certification as it's laid out.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
thank you. About a copy of the certification form, if I get the chair this time. I brought one too.
Good.
You got it.
Go ahead.
Yep, well, thank you. One's for me and one's for yourself, for your records.
Keep this one.
Yeah, that's yours, Bill. Any of the other maps that you want are yours. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
There you go.
Right on time. Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Jen and John.
Morning.
Sorry. Thank you.
Haven't you heard you sit down when you come in?
I didn't touch it.
You walked in and got cold.
You're like a little tornado in a closet. Everybody's that was that on.
Just kidding, yeah.
I didn't touch it. Honest to God.
Okay. I don't know if we have any, do we have any information, or do you have all the information? Maybe I'll let you.
No, we've got, two things to discuss. Might as well start with the grant.
So, the Department of Public Safety and the Office of Justice Program put out a grant to support the safe and secure storage of firearms owned by persons subject to the extreme risk protection orders. Per state law, it reports that law enforcement has to maintain those guns, and right now, our gun storage is non-climate controlled. So I, applied for this grant and we did receive it. And I think the total amount was $237,000 is what the state put out. And I just asked for $22,333, and we did receive it. So if the board's approval, that we can use it, they will reimburse us once we start. So.
So what the intent is then with this grant, and it's for basically the storage of these firearms racks and everything. In the new LEC in the very basement, where the big storage room is at, that's open space for us. And so that's where these new racks would be mounted, and more than likely we would be removing any firearms that we currently have in our evidence lockers or evidence room to that spot, just to protect them a lot better than what they're being protected now. The rest of the evidence would stay. This is strictly gonna be for firearms, so it's an evidence thing as well.
So is this a big cabinet or what is it?
No,
It's a big wall of gun racks.
it's racks that get permanently mounted on to the concrete board walls or block walls.
Yeah. And so there's different racks for pistols, long guns.
So just for confiscated firearms, not our own? Or both?
Confiscated.
Confiscated.
Court ordered confiscated.
Court orders.
And so
Luckily, we haven't dealt with that yet, but
You're gonna though. So we used to deal with it though.
hard to say.
The courts would order the gun. Yeah, so that's gonna happen.
So they gotta stay in pristine. Cause if they don't,
Then we're liable.
yep.
So is there a motion to? And we received the grant, so we need to, to accept the grant of 2,300 and.
2333.02.
Did you get that, Chad?
$2,333.02.
Is there a motion to accept that grant?
I'll make that motion.
The second?
Second, only because we got that extra 2 cents.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that was the game changer.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next.
I believe it's the investigator position.
So we've had a handful of meetings with the personnel committee, let's say over the last few months. And as county board is well aware, is, we talk about retention and recruitment. Within our office, we've always had 2 people that play the role of an investigator. And those 2 would rotate. They were on a 6-month rotation, is how it was. An investigator worked Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, 8 to 5, whatever it may be. And like I said, they've always played the role of the investigator, had the full duties of an investigator. And we need to kind of secure that a lot better than what it is. And so in conversations with the personnel committee, we talked about, again, the retention recruitment and the benefits that would move along or go with having people titled as investigators within our office. We did the wage study was sent in, right, or to Baker Tilly, and we got a rating on that as well. In our last meeting with the personnel committee, then they suggested, well, they were, and
you know, correct me if I'm wrong, fine with, moving forward with those positions. And it's not hiring anybody new, it's just recruiting from within. There are certainly a couple deputies that are interested in that position, in those positions, who are currently doing the investigations anyways. And who also do excellent jobs in doing those investigations, so we just want to recognize those potential applicants for the investigator's position. And they still play the regular role also of patrol deputy answering the normal calls that we get day in and day out, depending on their workload. So with that, yeah, we are requesting to be able to offer the 2 investigator positions formally within the office. And then on top of that, I just want to add too that we were fortunate enough that we have made job offers to 2 deputies who have both accepted. So they're new graduates, and we won't mention any names at this point, but so we have the potential now in the first time in 2 years coming up September that we would be fully staffed again, which is exciting. So
this is, we've already approved 1 investigator position. What we're looking is for approving a second.
So does this have any significant budget impact?
well,
Put a dollar figure on what you mean by significant.
yeah,
Why,
not
okay, let me rephrase it. So the work part probably isn't, I heard it wasn't changing.
correct.
So then, would this have much budget impact?
Well, so for the two that are interested, that show interest in it, for the one, the budget impact, not really, because he is still moving throughout the steps that we have on the pay scale as a deputy. So he just moves to a different grade and starts out at a different scale. So I mean, it's quite a time before, whether you'd want to say budget impact or not. The second person would be at the top of the current pay scale where he's at. So moving that grade, it's almost just like the increase the deputies would be seeing.
Do we remember actually what the grade, was it 1 grade? 1 grade, so it's $1.50 an hour,
Oh, only that, $2,000-3,000.
depending on where they are on.
Right.
So. That's. And you said the personnel committee is, recommended or approved this, and do we need an emotion and?
Yep, well, I'll make a motion to create a second investigator's position. I'll second it.
Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a signature?
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot, there'll be some swimming back and forth. There'll be a lot of trouble. Like the right on the.
Oh, right on the. Did you watch some film yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
How about the Wolves? Did you see that? Smash Fest? Jeez. Wonder what they'll find that Murray for throwing that heat back out on the floor. But they knew that should have been a charge on us. Oh, dad, but you know, boy, that was a rough year.
That was all water.
But that's how them.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
That's how they like to play. Somebody gave it right.
See,
Not
that was hard, yeah.
The rock show. About that wide, about that long.
Yeah, like,
But still, it's still pretty, light compared to the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
The Detroit, you know.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
Lamb beer.
Yeah. And the guy that played with Michael Jordan, the 5 guy.
Yeah,
Stop, you know. Put it on.
Yeah, you put it-
Goddamn rock.
His name again. He's the one who killed that. You know where it was, starting to be-
Yeah.
Sorry, has back on it.
Crazy.
No, I think it's with home.
Yeah, they are.
Maybe,
Expose it at landscape.
Yeah, you're 1 minute late now. That's okay.
Okay, good, so I don't have to give an update.
So
That's awesome.
you wanna,
Yeah, but don't get
I
done
think we should
late.
start without Bill, or you wanna wait?
I don't know, it's up to you guys.
You'll be back.
A little hand, I got mail for you.
Yeah, mail.
This is the last.
So first you have memorandum of,
Yep, so the first thing I have goes, follows what Jenny and John were here for the investigator position. So this is a new position that has to get approved by the union to be a part of the bargaining agreement and to be in the union. So this classification would need approval with a MOA. That this is gonna be a member of the LELS bargaining group and the investigator is classified at a grade 12. So it's just identifying that position is gonna be part of that union group.
and I kind of assume that there'll be both investigators are the same.
Yep.
Doesn't have, there's no difference.
They're grade 12.
So do we need a motion for that?
Yep.
So is there a motion for that? What she said?
I'll make a motion to approve the LELS MOA.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
And what's that acronym? What's that mean?
Memorandum of agreement, it is to include the investigator into the LELS bargaining group.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next one I have memorandum of agreement is for highway department. So we have recently hired a highway accountant position. And they are starting actually on Monday, but they had made a request for a temporary schedule adjustment due to daycare. They're continuing to look for daycare, but they don't have daycare on Fridays. And so the request was if they could work their 37.5 hours on Monday through a Thursday. Until they were to either find that daycare on Friday or their kids would be school aged to go to school. And so what we had figured out, I talked with the union, the personnel committee, and it'd be 2 days. What the memorandum says, it's 2 days from 6:30 to 4:30 and 2 days from 6:30 AM to 4:15 PM. So they're here for the day, earlier than the most employees come in and later than most, because right now the maintenance workers they're working 4/10s. So, and they're off Fridays too. So this is just an MOA that I have to get for the union to accept that temporary job schedule.
And is county engineer okay with that?
Yes.
And with the understanding that if they do follow on
Yep.
daycare, that it
Yes.
would go back to a regular schedule.
Regular schedule, but being that it is out of the scope of the agreed upon hours in the new contract, we had to get a memorandum of agreement.
Is there a motion for the memorandum of agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve the AFSCME MOA.
As a member of the highway committee, I'll second that.
Is there any additional discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you. So the last thing is the coordinator, position. At the last meeting or the meeting before, I had, stated that I was sending out a list. What you have in front of you is the list that was sent out to the department heads to revise or update. I did not receive any, feedback or response for this list, so I sent this out to you guys last week. And so this is the list that we're looking at as far as what would be, potentially included in that coordinator role. The draft position has been developed in 2022, but it would need to be revised. Obviously, it's out of date, but it was just a guide to look at, a starting point, I guess. But, so this is the list. I don't know if there's anything in this list that you see that potentially should come out or not added at this time. This position is going to be ever changing, I think. And so there may be things that I don't know if you guys see things that maybe shouldn't go in there now, but maybe it'd be a later thing or I guess this is just for a discussion. What I'd like, or what I would request is that we would have a motion to the support of the position to move forward. And then another motion would be then to move forward with the development of the job description. But with the list, I guess I'm looking for feedback if there's anything here that you see that you don't feel is appropriate for the position, or we'd also don't want to add too much to this position either to be, too much on their plate, but this is the feedback we got from the department heads at the strategic planning committee meetings.
I maybe have a question. I don't know if that's something Chad can help me with, the MCIT insurance. Help me out with that.
You wanna know, what is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that just what would that entail? Is that you handling that now or someone else, or so
Well,
split up
the
kind of?
main part of it is, well, Philip Ball, the main contact. There are annually, there are things that need to be reported to MCIT for our coverage. There's a list of all covered, properties, vehicles, our certificates of coverage for liabilities, all these things, you're in charge of making sure we're covered, basically. There's reports on your scheduled items. Those lists get sent out to the departments to be reviewed. Sometimes they get reviewed. There is estimates. I'm like now, in April, we do prelim work for 2025, meaning I had to submit our best guess estimates for workers' comp, meaning, by classification code. What do you project your wages will be for your attorney, your highway maintenance guys, your office staff, your this, your that, next thing. Those types of things are done. There was also what's called EDP coverage, which is your electronic data processing, which is basically all of your computers and an inventory list of that, anything that can transmit or has electronic data, the voting machines, that type of thing. We have to generate a list of all of that, your servers for 2025. And then any updates that happen throughout the year. If we sell a vehicle and replace a vehicle, that has now been kind of pushed off on the departments to try to manage that through their website, only because we were trying to go through our office and half the time we would know when people were buying and selling and trading and renting and, just making sure we have the coverage on the stuff we need.
Sure. So mainly that's the property and casualty and the work comp piece. The group health you would be working with.
Group else has nothing to.
That's NCIT.
Yeah, that's not MCIT.
Yeah.
MCIT with me would be like the work comp, like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
right.
coordinate that and if anybody's injured, things like that. Mhm.
So I guess one of the thoughts I would have, especially out of the chute, would probably recommend that that stays where it's at. Now, could it evolve into that coordinator's position? Maybe, but I think it feels like it's pretty closely aligned with a lot of the records and the financial piece that's in your wheelhouse. I might be wrong. I just a thought. I had discussion on it.
Anybody else? have-
Of the
Yeah.
items, I think that-
What's that?
Of the items, I think that is one thing that could go with coordinator,
Yeah,
but it's for you guys to decide, I guess.
I would think it would be more fitting for a coordinator for just working with all the departments. Not saying the auditor's office doesn't, but that's. And then one of the things too is it says attend committee meetings. I know we talked about this before and I would just add the word relevant.
Mhm.
Cause it's the case that when you have your planning advisory, I don't need a coordinator sitting when we're just approving a garage being built.
Mhm.
One thing I've seen there, that contact for the extension, we gotta actually, you know, the auditor or whoever has gotta be able to take minutes for that committee. So that role should be this person, correct?
Well, so right now, that was my addition to the list because, I'll get random phone calls, like I just got a random phone call just the other day about we have a summer intern, we need equipment, we need a desk and we need a computer. And you know, it doesn't go to you, it really doesn't go to me, and so, you know, that type of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then come out of that meeting, that, you know, for her to reach out.
Yep.
You know.
It's just she needs this person to reach out to that
Right.
knows.
That's the key right
Yep.
there, but they're gonna have to clerk that meeting, because legally, you know, we're obligated to clerk that meeting.
Sure.
So that should be part of it.
the other question I'd have, and I think we agree we're going down the coordinator route rather than administrator route, right?
That
So
was the
then-
consensus.
Yeah, so then does the budgets? Cause under the coordinator route, generally that stays with, in this case, the auditor. Or under the administrator route, they're more involved in that. So is this more of an administrator? When in our discussion,
Yeah, I think it could be either one. The one thing that I think is just my opinion is we always ask, who's your backup? You know, everyone should have a backup, right?
Yeah.
And, depending on how you guys wanna do it, it'd be nice probably for Chad to have a backup if he does it, or if Chad to be the backup for the coordinator to do it. What you say, having a backup to understand how that works in the event that you happen to be out or gone or something like that. And if it's not something you want in the coordinator role, now, maybe down the road, you can see it moving there, you know, just to see how it works. I don't know, it's up to you guys, but having someone familiar with the budgets, I think is a benefit.
I like the backup piece, just that. If they're gonna drive the complete budget. Once again, if see how this position evolves,
Mhm.
cause there's quite a bit to that work. Would you agree, Chad?
I think it's gonna be more of a partnership.
Yeah, there you
If
go.
you go with if that is the desire, if that is the outcome to have a coordinator, the coordinator's gonna have to work with the auditor's office and the auditor.
Mhm.
Because if the auditor, when you're preparing a budget and a levy, and if either one of those two is not, you know, if you have a coordinator and they're in all the meetings, they know what's going on with projects, with this, with that, with bonding, whatever. Pretty hard for the auditor to sit down and do a budget not knowing, oh yeah, we decided we're gonna do this next year. They're gonna have, they gotta work together.
Could you see it more of like in the job description, maybe listed as assist with budgets? I'm just
Doesn't matter.
to work with you, to have that in there.
You're gonna have to sit down just like I do now, and sit down with every department.
Yeah.
You know, it's, cause I mean, for me, knowing that this bond is paid off on this year, and this is the project itself. Cause I'm in meetings, if I don't attend all those meetings, and you have a coordinator, the coordinator,
Mhm.
it's gonna be almost in both
The joint effort.
jobs.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe what you said, like the partnership or assist with, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
However you wanna spin it in there.
Okay.
Well, I would leave it up to Chad, who the listed owner of the budget is, but if you're gonna say that they're a contact for department heads to go over things for board, that's a budget implication, right? So that they need to be as familiar, if not more, than if Chad still owns it, okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
But they need to be as familiar with what's going on.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I would say that if they're gonna talk to Chad or ask Chad a question, the coordinator is gonna know the same answer. You know,
That is a dual role.
we're gonna work hand in hand with that piece of it, I think.
And for discussion, and I think we talked about this last meeting. We're moving forward with the understanding that this would be a full-time, one FTE, right?
But yeah, it's up to you guys, yeah.
Board understands that.
That's where I was 2 years ago.
Yep. You brought me along.
I got a question.
Yep.
So my concern is, you know, that this coordinator is supposed to coordinate the meetings for the board. But I just wanna make sure that the auditor over there, who is a major piece of this county's working, I guess. Cause we have a lot of questions for Chad at every meeting. Is he gonna be here for every meeting? Cause we have lots and lots of questions for our auditor, and he's very good at answering us and kind of pointing us in the right direction. So, you know, what's our thoughts on that?
Let's have Ashley address it first. I love that look.
Thanks. Well, I mean,
It's a
you
big
wanna
deal.
keep it? The clerking?
I'm not gonna lie, I will say this, you can ask both the girls up in the office. I did very little auditor stuff last week. My whole week was for weeks. The last, well, I was here half a day yesterday. So yesterday and today will be all coordinator stuff. When I come and sit through meetings, I can come to the meetings. Yeah, that's no big deal. I would prefer if you go to coordinator not to put them. It's time consuming.
So my initial thought is, you know, Chad has obviously been involved in the board meetings for many, many years, right? And so he's been involved in all the discussions and the information and things like that, where, you know, this coordinator role will start doing that. It might take some time for them to get up to speed with everything that's going on, but over time, they will be knowledgeable and get the information they need to answer those questions. Will Chad need to assist probably for some of the questions for a while? For sure, you know, he holds that information too, so I think it's just a transition period, just like anybody starting a new position. It takes a while before they know the role, they know the ins and outs of everything. They'll eventually get there, but yeah, they'll definitely need the assistance from Chad.
I think too, as chair of the board, I can see where, and I try to minimize the times I need to contact Chad, because I know that you got more on your plate. But when, like you said, when it gets down to meeting time, stuff's happening, I think with a coordinator, that maybe there would be more discussion. Cause they're gonna be focused on this rather than all the other duties that you may have. And so I think it would really help the chairperson is. And so back to Dwight's concern or comment. you know, might make a difference on the agenda. Maybe we have you in the room for a portion, because it's gonna evolve into that discussion, or if we need to call you. Or maybe, I don't know,
Well, he can be available. I mean, we've got
yeah.
Zoom right there. He can be available from a tractor if he needs to be. I mean, asking a question is.
Where was yesterday?
Did anybody call you?
4 years ago, there was a lot of Zoom meetings with tractors. I'm
I don't
sorry.
have my own cell phone, so I'm not answering the phone. Reason why I don't have my cell phone.
So- Back to Dwight's comment, I don't know if it rises to the concern level, but your comment. Thoughts? Are you comfortable with how this discussion has evolved, or you?
I guess the first thing is just the support or the approval to move forward with the position.
Yeah.
Would be first. I would look for.
It would really take the right individual that's been in government before, they could hit and do this job on the run. There's gonna be a big time learning curve, and I think it'll help all his office, and I think it'll create redundancy in our systems, and it'll help us as commissioners as well. So I support it. It's time.
Is there a motion to proceed with developing the job description? Is that what we want to move?
So it'd be just the support of moving forward with
Coordinator?
the coordinator role.
Is there a motion to moving forward to support of the coordinator role?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
No additional discussion.
So what we're doing here, this is a full-time, we're looking at full-time. Is that what we're looking at?
I think maybe going back, when we met with the strategic planning committee, and we heard from the department heads. It felt like the amount of work and the impact that this person may have, it needs to be that, I believe that. Would that be fair, the way I said that?
That was the discussion. I could say that's what came out of the strategic planning committee meeting. But again, that's up to you guys.
Additional discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So then the next would be a motion to move forward with reclassifying the coordinator or developing the coordinator job description.
Okay. And that will take this, with this,
That'll be, these duties will be added.
is there a motion to move forward with developing the position description?
See, this is where we were before when we came back
We
2
just,
years
we
ago
just
with
approved
one,
supporting it.
And we just stalled, and that's why I'm not gonna make the motion is because we've been here before.
So as,
I guess what's the reservation? Can I ask that? Like I just maybe,
yeah, I was gonna ask it, but thank you.
just so I have an idea.
Well, my opinion, Becky Young and how she serves Stevens County. That it helps out those commissioners, and they can do other things, and they can get more involved with, state outreach and things like that versus coming and doing local stuff, so.
Mhm.
I have to think that, and this person could possibly, get into those roles eventually once they learn the job.
Mhm.
So then they could do some lobbying for us and reach out and, the public face of the county at the same time. So right along with clerking the extension board,
Mhm.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Now we can have more discussion.
So who's gonna work on this?
So the personnel committee, works on getting the job description developed. And then sends it to Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly develops it and then comes back with a classification. And then, of course, the board has to approve the final job description and classification of it. And then if we want to move forward with posting it at that point. So,
And that's another month, two, maybe. Month.
Baker Tilly, you just never know.
Could be back in a week, it could be back in 6 months.
Right, that's kind of, you know,
So, but
but these discussions will come back next meeting, just to give us feedback.
you see where we're at. I can give you an update. It might not be anything and it might be
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
We played the waiting game.
In the discussions in the strategic planning committee and some of the drawings. The intent was to have this person up in the courthouse in the lower level. With an office. So it would be. In that setting. Additional discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I think that's all I got.
Can I ask a question? It got brought up in our strategic planning meeting that I want to ask the full board since only two of you were there. Since a lot of these job duties that will be assigned to the coordinator position were duties that I am currently doing. Is it the intent of the board to re-rate the auditor's job description, removing those duties?
Oh, the last part, explain the last piece, I didn't. quite-
Reclassifying.
To reclassify the auditor's job to remove, you know, after those duties are then transferred from the auditor's office or the auditor's duties to a coordinator position, is it the intent of the county board to reclassify the auditors?
Not my intent,
Nope.
not my intent.
And that's what, that's what I just want to make sure. There was only two of you guys there, so.
Right, and I told you that if my intent would be, if we do rewrite it, it would be for the next auditor. It would
Sorry,
not
it
be,
was on the backside.
we would not regrade you as the auditor. It would be the next one. That would be my intent. This would not.
Well, and just to reiterate.
Yep.
In 2017. Those duties were awarded no points. When my job was sent in for evaluation. So I wasn't being compensated for all those duties anyways. Right? So it wouldn't change. That's was my understanding.
That was,
There was no points assigned to all the coordinator duties that are in your job.
so, and
I'm not, right?
That was what they told us when they had that meeting in 17.
Okay,
now,
so I'll ask the same question, not to spur an argument.
No.
But if you go through the coordinator position, I wanna know why there were 0 points in 2017 and now they're gonna be worth points in 2024.
are you talking about points being to the new position?
Right, for clerk of the board, he had no points when it was for the auditor. And I mean, that's a Baker Tilly, they're gonna have to tell us that. Yep. Cause I mean, and it will, it was 0 points in 17 in the auditor's job description, and I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming there'll be points now.
So I've got a question for those who've been around a lot longer than I have. We did have a coordinator.
It's based on not title, but job duties.
So my point was some of these, at some point, was there a little bit of this gray area, or was just, it was just
Those duties that
entitled?
are on that piece of paper were listed underneath. Parking board, NCIT, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was told worth 0 points. Now they're gonna be worth a bunch of points. It's my assumption.
So I got a question for somebody. I mean, since how many years has the job, the clerk in the board, since we're talking about that, been in the wheelhouse of the auditor?
Before my time.
Because it's
Forever,
statutory.
statutorily, it's auditor.
You don't have a.
You don't- You don't have someone else to do it, it's the auditor.
Statutorily, it's the auditor.
So then,
And that might be a factor in it. I don't know. That's a Baker Tilly question. I
yeah,
don't know if
but,
that's why.
yes.
It's not, all I wanna know is why.
well, I suppose, does it go back to the statute then? I mean, if it fell in that wheelhouse, did we have,
All we can do is ask.
I'd have to ask Baker Tilly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm asking, is just why.
that's a legitimate question. I don't think the intent was to totally revamp that.
Just making sure that come September, October, all of a sudden, congratulations, your pay is increased by $50,000 a year.
You're gonna
I
have,
don't, we're going down that path.
we appreciate what you do, Chad.
You're the trainer.
Just asking.
You're gonna be the trainer. Why would we?
That's.
Any other questions or that?
Running way out of time.
Okay, so EMS communication, ARPA funds.
Okay. Okay, so our committee, we've been, we haven't met now for a little bit, but we're gonna meet tonight in Hoffman at the city council meeting. We're gonna go down there and just, kind of talk to them a little bit about, what our goals are, you know, Ashby Fire's coming, Lake Region's coming, and, Hoffman Ambulance is coming. Billy's coming, and I'm coming. But the thing that we need to address today is, this, ambulance that, Lake Region has a chance to obtain. And, as you guys are aware, the hospital got a grant for $125,000. And there was a match there of $125,000. I don't know where that came from yet, but that was a match. So that's $250,000. I got ahold of Eric, who couldn't be here today because he's setting up a paramed or a EMS trainers session with the Ashby High School, the way it looks, for first responders and EMTs. So he's not here, but anyway, I got a hold of him, and that ambulance is gonna come in probably right around $335,000 dollars, and probably be here in 3 months. So I just did some figuring. You know, I took the $250,000 that they have, and that would be kind of like $85,000 more that they need. Kenny talked to West Central Community Action, and they were willing to send us back 60,000 of that 175,000, I think, that they were awarded out of the ARPA funds. And then we had 43,000 left in undedicated funds in ARPA, so that was 103,000. So you know, I guess what the committee would like to see is us you know, donate or send at least 85,000 over there so that they can purchase that ambulance. Now, we don't know the exact price yet, but it's gonna be right around that 335, so. And that would leave us with the extra 18,000 in ARPA there, left over, but I think that's the way we should go. I think we should dedicate some of that ARPA money over to them so that they can purchase that ambulance and get that one here. So I guess I was just wondering what you guys' thoughts on that are.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could this is Jeff Backer. I was asked to hop on just to give an update on EMS. I'm going into a committee. I hate to butt in, but if I was asked just to give an update, would I have the privilege to do that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so here's where we're at with EMS. Right now, we are scheduled today on the floor to hear a bill about creating a agency. Right now, the funding for rural EMS is traveling separate. We believe we created a better formula. So right now, my still focus is on the retention, recruitment, and reimbursement. Instead of just moving the chess piece from a board to an agency. So there's a lot of time left in our session. I know most people think, well, you only have 8 days, but in St. Paul, that's a lot of time to get things accomplished. Today on the House floor, you'll hear, if you listen, and you probably won't, I get that, but you'll hear that I will be focusing on retention, recruitment, and reimbursement, and that means we need dollars to do that. We do need a funding mechanism so we can help with that. So the majority is focusing on adding a new agency, and that's not what we heard when we traveled the state. So we're working, I'm working behind the scenes to get it towards the funding, working with leadership on that, and that is our update today, commissioners.
Is there any questions for Representative Baxter?
Is there something more you're looking from us out here as far as reflections and commissioners clear across the, greater Minnesota? Are you looking for some feedback, for some of this testimony that you're doing down there, or you guys kind of got your head around it and you're ready to move forward? The number is locked up, correct? I mean, the 120 million that AMC is kind of pushing forward, that number is still in discussion.
It is still in discussion. There's a key difference right now. I know right now today we will be voting on a Sprint medic program that would be, there's 2 pilot models, one in St. Louis County and one in Otter Tail Grant County. And I'm not against that model. The thing that I'm pushing for, my priority, every single ambulance service in Grant County, Wilkin, Traverse, and Otter Tail County has what we call no loads, meaning we show up on the scene, it's a lip assist, or they refuse care, or in a really serious situation, a helicopter lands. And if you don't move the wheels, if it's Medicaid or Medicare, you don't get paid on it. My priority is to help those services because we would help so many more. Because right now EMS is in a 911 situation. So you got to cut the bleeding and non-transfer. So my focus there, Commissioner LaValle, is to really challenge some of those funds to no loads because everybody's having that problem and so forth. When we were out there in the field, no one says that there was a response problem, some minor places, but it's that recruitment. Well, one of the reasons we have a recruitment problem is we don't get paid, reimbursed correctly, but we don't get paid on non-transportation runs that are no loads that we don't transport. So those need to be our focus. That's what I'm focusing on. You will see on the House floor today that we will support the Sprint Medic program for Otter Tail in Grant County, and I'm in favor of that. My higher priority, though, is helping all services because if we only help 2 small areas and the rest of the system starts to collapse, then that's problematic also. So there's a balance right now that we're trying to work on, and I may need your help. We'll see how it goes on the House floor today.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
I do have.
Go
ahead.
We'd have 18,000 left over after the 85?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to commit to up to 100,000. So I mean, if it's 85, great, but I mean, if it winds up being 92.
So Chad, you have that rundown. I was looking for it. I can't find it, that. Back to you made a motion?
I did.
Okay,
I'll second that and.
so now we got a motion.
Commissioner Johnson, that's exactly what I had kind of written down for a motion, is what you said there, so.
So I'd like to comment on you make the comment about the housing, and I did talk among that, represent us on that board. And one of the things Missy and her team said was it was a stretch to get 3 houses and the 175 completed. And I posed the other piece is, when we talked about 2, I said, we also gave $200,000 to the HRA, which is housing. So if you back off the 175 down to 115, that really we could say out of our ARPA funds, we contributed 315,000 to housing. And so if that's a point, and she was fine with doing the 2 houses, that was actually more attainable. And I think she supported, I can speak for Missy in that respect. But back to the dollar amounts. If this 100, if we take the 60, some of those balances, townships and cities haven't been asked for. Are we getting?
Lloyd has a list of them, right? So, part of it.
Yeah, can I look? Are we getting into any of those that may get asked for?
No,
So we're not.
if all of the,
It's $12,000.
dedicated, if you guys have dedicated funds to certain things.
Yep.
If all of the individuals had requested what they have been dedicated, including the West Central, because I didn't know what was going on, including the 175 West Central, you would have still had $43,587 remaining that wasn't dedicated to a specific city, township, area, whatever you want to call it. Now that West Central has submitted an application for 115, that 43,587 increases now to 103,587.
So that ties into the.
Even if Sanford, Logan, all these townships, Hoffman, Ashby, Wendell, they received their funds.
Yeah.
And we paid them out, Gibson Mounds, the Western Prairie, you would still have 103,000.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion, of the $100,000 that would go towards the purchase? And we do understand that this ambulance would be owned by the Lake Region, the Elbow Lake Region Group. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Yes. We are now fashionably late. Tina? I did ask Tina Lindquist to give us a quick update on how the impact of her and others' work is we're coming into the storm season. If you turn the weather on, if we live south of here, it would be pretty devastating, but I think it's really important that we see the benefits of what we have going on in the area.
I think so.
Yeah, you can just exit out, just slide it over. Or click down below where it says, click down below where it says participants, just click on that maybe. No, on this, not on your screen. On the, yeah, I'm getting close. Just click on participants right down at the bottom, or there's an X up there. Oh, okay. Up there. Sure, I'll just slide down. I mean, that's the sole important. So, no.
Okay, in the essence of time, we'll jump right into this. Thank you, Ashley and Chad, for the IT support. Ken asked me to come today and give an update on the X-band weather radar in Wendell. And, it's gonna be just a tiny bit more than that, because there's a lot happening, and I think it's important, when you guys go to your regional committees and stuff, and you talk to other counties who, are in the pilot project, you have an understanding of what's going on. So as we know, we have a new radar in Wendell, and just a very quick recap of why they went through this work to obtain the radar. So remember, from previous discussions, how radars work. Your physical distance from a radar affects how low the beam can cover your area. So the radar, the National Weather Service radar that, covers Grant County is located in Mayville, North Dakota, and our weather forecasting comes out of the Grand Forks Weather Field Office. Okay, and because of our location from there, we're the furthest area jurisdiction away from that radar. Okay, as the beam goes out, you'll see, right? It exposes a low level atmosphere that doesn't have radar coverage. The beam is not covering it, and it happens because the earth is round, right? So there's our radar from Mayville. It shoots its beams out, right? And it does great capturing all the weather up here. But this low level area here, we lose the coverage, that low level atmosphere coverage. And here in Grant County, and I'll show you the map in a minute, we have nothing below 10,000, and some areas nothing below 12,000. And why is that a concern? Most convective weather, whether it's winter weather, summer weather, spring weather, fall weather, develops between 2,000 to 8,000 feet. Okay, so there's things we've been doing through the past to help with that, and that's to provide weather spotters. So our volunteers, they're all volunteer responders, take Skywarn training to learn how to try to go out, look at weather, and help let Grand Forks know what we're seeing here on the ground, because the radar isn't covering us. Okay, the reason I got involved with this as intensely as I did is because responder safety is a big priority. And if you'll remember back in May of 2022, when we had those derechos, those EF0 winds and tornadoes come through, when we had volunteer responders going out to do weather watching, or deputies, right? Some of them were getting pushed right off the road because they were driving right into those strong winds because nobody knew they were here, because we don't have the coverage. So that's a big deal to me, okay? So that was the first reason why I got involved. Second reason is I think we live in a time with technology and solutions where we can fill these gaps, these low level gaps, okay? So this is how the radar works. That's why we went ahead with it. We got the beautiful little X-band radar in Wendell on top of the water tower out there. It's operating, it's collecting supplemental data. That data is currently being plumbed, going right to the Grand Forks Field Office. So they're getting it, okay? Which is at a minimum, a big success story, okay? We want to take it to the next level. We wanted to get that supplemental weather data into the hands of our responders as well. There's been zero cost, there will be zero cost to Wendell and to the county. To me, this is a win-win situation, because in 5 years, if we say the supplemental weather data really isn't helping us here, we don't want the radar anymore. The company comes, takes down the radar, replaces the water tank to exactly how it was, right down to paint colors, and they take it away, okay? Access to data, there's been a lot of questions now that we've had publicity around the radar up and working. It is available to public safety, okay? Public safety in Grant County is law enforcement, fire, emergency management, EMS, and public works, okay? They all have accounts, can go in and look at that supplemental weather data. It is not available for the public to log in or to get an app right at this moment. Okay, it's just for public safety, and it's more important than that for the National Weather Service. And the reason that's important is the National Weather Service is the authority in sending out weather alerts. And this is hopefully gonna give us more advance notice. So in the past, when we didn't know something was coming because nobody could catch it on the radar, or it was happening when we were getting our alerts and the public was upset that they didn't get advance warning. Public education is huge, right? How the radar works, why that was happening. Now we have a solution, but that solution right now is going to the National Weather Service and to public safety. It's not directly available to the public. Climavision is a private company and they are working on agreements with media, weather stations and or some weather apps. And once those agreements become complete, and there's certain apps or weather stations, TV stations that are using our supplemental data, they'll let us know and then we'll let the public know. So then the public has the opportunity to follow those apps or follow those TV news stations. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. So any questions so far?
Do we cover that sphere with MCIT in case something happens to it? Or is it the company got the responsibility? Say a windstorm goes through in the towers.
We don't own it. Climavision owns it. Yep, it's
All done.
all on
All
them.
done.
Yep.
Good.
I have a quick question. You mentioned it goes to NOAA. So there are such things as radios that report NOAA. Would it be available on that?
Yep, on the NOAA weather radios. Yep, yep. If you have a NOAA weather radio in your house that's set to the Mayville weather radar station, you would get it on that. Great question. Okay.
Question for you. Does the National Weather Service recognize, do they tell people that this Climavision is helping them? Or do they take the credit for it?
You know, it's a private-public partnership. And so a lot of times with government, right, it's public to public, so this is a little bit new. And I do have a slide that talks about the National Weather Service and where they're at. But our field office staff, the people that we work with are great and they're excited. You know, it's another tool in the toolbox, okay? But it's kind of with budgeting, if you follow any of it, you know, the National Weather Service has, you know, they say they need more money, they're not getting more money. It's not something they go out and promote because they can say they have good coverage for EF2, EF3 tornadoes, that weather that's being captured in the beam. It's those low level areas that they know, you know, they recognize and acknowledge they can't see it, but you know, there's also weather spotters and things like that in place. So it's not like it's a very common conversation, but it's getting better. The National Weather Service, when they came and did our Skywarn training, we actually looked at some of the data, which I'll show you guys. And they're using it and they're putting it through their quality control. So they make sure it's good data to be able to use it as another tool. So in Wendell, the only operating X-band radar in Minnesota right now, this is the kind of data that it's collecting, that we have access to, okay? It's the reflectivity data, which is what we're used to seeing already on the news or on your apps. It's precipitation rate, and it's also velocity. And velocity is important, in my opinion, because as emergency management, public safety, this data right here, this red and green, we didn't have access to it before, really, like we do now. I mean, there was on the National Weather Service sites, but the resolution's so high, this really helps us know where those winds are, coming and going and where they meet, where we might have problem area for winter or summer weather.
And that level, you're talking about the newest portion of that, that's with the updrafting.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into the science of it today. Okay, so there's a Minnesota pilot project going on that's using our radar, okay? Those are the counties that are involved, you know, it's not, it went out to our region. Not every county in our region chose to participate. These are the ones that did. So they get a 12-month free trial of having access to the supplemental data, okay? The way to view the data, again, we're not gonna get into science or technology, but there's Radius, which is a platform that's free through Climavision, and there's GR Analyst and Esri. The available data is the precipitation amount, wind velocity, and reflectivity. After 12 months, they'll have to decide what they wanna do or how this is gonna work, but there's new exciting developments coming that I'll talk about in a minute. Here's a couple case stories. You'll see in the map up there in the corner, the yellow, orangish circles are where the National Weather Service radars are, right up here. Okay, the blue is what our Wendell radar covers. And it's good. We had 3 snow events this last winter. We were hoping that we were gonna have a lot more, so we had a lot of case studies to reflect on and look at. And as it happens, we only really had 3 what we would consider major snow events, which is good news for most people. But you'll see this one on October 31st was a system that came through, and this image here on the left is what the radar in Mayville was picking up, and the one on the right is what the X-band was picking up in Wendell. So you can see how much was being missed, okay? And you can see all the counties that are benefiting from it. You know, Otter Tail, Douglas, Stevens, Pope. I mean, all the way around, Traverse, Wilkin. So we started seeing this in October. Remember, it was lifted October 6th or 19th, having a brain fart, I can't remember. But this was October 31st, and it was already working and capturing data. This is another snow event, January 6th. And you can see again, the image on the left is the NexRad, which is in Mayville. And then the image on the right is our radar in Wendell and what it was picking up. Okay, February 14th was another one. You'll see, I just want to point this out, this white line right here. What that is that is the grain leg on the Wendell elevator. That it's putting a slight obstruction in the radar as it goes around. It looks much bigger than it actually is. It's like a millisecond on the radar when it's going around, but it does show up. And so like in Stevens County in their PSAP and their dispatch center, when they're looking at it, it looks, the piece of pie looks really big. It's not as big as it looks, but there's a fix coming for that. It's not unique to our radar, and Wendell, this happens wherever they have these radars across the country, but really tall things, especially grain elevators, can sometimes. But they built a mosaic. Again, we're not going to get into the science or technology, but there is a solution to that, and it will be fixed. But this event on February 14th, you can see the X-band has the ability to have better resolution than the big NexRad radars. And you can see here these snow swells. The green is where there was ground blizzards. And we would have not had any of that information just relying on the National Weather Service radar. Okay, so again, with regards to public safety and getting notices out to the public when it's, you know, not safe to drive, things like that, we have another tool in the toolbox to look at, as does the National Weather Service. Okay, this is an example from Texas from January 8th. We haven't had any severe weather here yet, but I thought it was a good example of the type of supplemental data that we're getting. So here, this vision or this image here on the right is their NexRad, their National Weather Service radar in Texas, Hamilton, Texas, that covers them. And you can see, like we're used to seeing on TV now or on our ads, there's red, there's some bad stuff coming, but you can notice how it's real blocky and the resolution isn't real good. The X-band data over here with that higher resolution, this is the same system, this is the exact same time, but you can see, if you can they're called couplets. You can see there, those are very high potential chance for severe winds. And so with this data, you know, and put together in the toolbox with that data, they have a lot better visual of what's coming and what kind of announcements and alerts to get out to the public. So, yeah,
It displays the intensity.
yeah,
Right.
it's just a higher resolution, it's lower to the ground, so it can see that convective development. And so that to me is a good example in relation to like summer, spring, fall severe weather. Okay, so we are MN 55, this is the Wendell radar right here. They're very, very hopeful that there's 4 more X-bands going up in the state of Minnesota in 2024. MN 77 is up in Bemidji. MN 78 is over Crow Wing County, Brainerd area. 79 down here, it's the Montevideo area is what we're working with. And then MN 80 is down here in Faribault on the Minnesota-Iowa border. In all of those sites are in some process of site analysis and getting agreements signed and things like that, like we all did here with Wendell. So by the end of 2024, we hope to have 4 more X-band radars in the state of Minnesota. There's a second phase that's being planned, and that's these three red circles across the northern border, with Canada. And those are phase 2 because up there's not as much infrastructure, so they might have to look at building their own, stand for the radar to sit on, which would take longer and more money. And so they want to get the other 4 up and going, and then hopefully in 2025, they can start exploring along there. Plus, they want to work with Canada and see because they have radars that cover into Minnesota, and try to be as efficient as they can for coverage. Okay, so this is the map that you guys have seen before. We know there's 72 out of 87 counties that fall in some low-level gap area. So when we look back at this slide, we can see we're filling this white area, trying to fill those gaps. So it's pretty exciting stuff. It's been gaining a lot of momentum and a lot of interest from elected officials. And just quick little synopsis here, there's 3 types of radars. The NexRad are the ones that the National Weather Service has. The X-band, the small ones, that's what's in Wendell and what I just showed you on the map. And then there's a mid one, that's a C-band, and they're a little bit bigger. They're their own infrastructure. They can't go on existing infrastructure. They're more expensive, but they're more powerful. And there is a group of people that are working in the state looking at some to see if there's a possibility to get the state to purchase some of these C-band radars, own them, operate them, and create a data center. Because the end goal is we'd love to make the weather data free to everybody, all the public. But there's a lot of steps in that process and they're not quite there yet. So federally, going back to your comment, Dwight, Ken Graham is the director of the National Weather Service. He's traveling around the country and speaking at conferences, of public safety conferences, emergency management conferences. And this is what he's saying. The current government radar fleet, so the National Weather Service, those NexRad radars, is over 40 years old, okay? The projected timeline to start replacing them is 2040. Okay, that's quite a while away. Personally, I don't think we can wait that long. The National Weather Service has been putting out a report regarding how replacement parts for those big radars are running out. You can't find them. They also indicated that they are not planning to add any additional radar locations anywhere in the country. And they're also saying how when they go to upgrade those NexRad radars, the technology that has to go on them is extremely expensive. Okay, and the National Weather Service, because of all these reasons, are starting to look at agreements or relationships between government and private companies. Because the private sector has the ability to bring a solution a little bit faster, but it's not a foolproof solution. We still need to look, because they are smaller, don't have as much coverage, but they're saying, hey, we know this is an issue, and we need to start looking at ways to start filling the gaps. So our timing with all of this is kind of coming together, converging together. It's not, these low-level radar gaps are not unique to Minnesota. We know that statistically, we can look at a map and find out all the EF0, EF1 events, straight line wind events, durations that happen every year, causing a lot of damages. A lot of them come without warnings because of these gaps. Above all, no matter what solution we find, National Weather Service is the official alerting authority. They will remain the official alert authority, and everything we're doing is in support of our partnership with them. And of course, we did the supplemental weather data. We wanted to be another tool in the toolbox to help give more advanced notice of severe weather. And I personally, as I'm involved with the state movement, I want to make sure that we're not putting any additional stress or duties on the local PSAP, okay? Because we have a lot of counties that have one person sitting in dispatch when severe weather happens, and it's very crazy in there at that time. And so by no means do we ever want to put additional stress or additional work on dispatchers. So we're trying to integrate this into the system and get it to the National Weather Service so they can help out at the local level. So, like I said, it's gained a lot of attention. The Lieutenant Governor reached out to us and asked us to come down and have a 2-hour work session with them. with the staff on May 29th to kind of give them more of the science, the technology, the budget information that we have. So there's a lot of homework being done to prep for that meeting, because it looks to have, you know, a lot of bipartisan support to find a solution. Minnesota is one of the states in the country that has the most gap area. So we're gonna do that on May 29th. On June 4th, I will be presenting, a potential X-band solution for the state of Minnesota to AMM. As another group will be presenting a C-band solution, and then that board will decide kind of what they think the best movement forward would be, because it is looking to go to legislative groups in 2025 and 2026 for funding. So right now, the options that, you know, I see for the state of Minnesota is to do nothing, to wait for the federal solution in 2040, which I think is ridiculous if we know we have potential solutions now. Looking at a state-owned C-band solution, again, there's a subcommittee working and doing the homework on that side. Looking at a state contract for X-band supplemental weather data. I'm kind of leading the charge on that side. And then, you know, there's a fifth option I put up here because I think there's an opportunity, if we do get a lot of support legislatively, to look at layered solutions. We can get some X-bands working in the gaps, because we know the C-band solution, it will take longer. At least we can start filling and then layer it to the next level with the C-band, all to complement those big NextRad radars that are out there. So our overall goal is to put more ice in the sky, fill the radar gaps for all of Minnesota, and continue working with the National Weather Service. So
Great.
that is the update.
I think it's really important, and you and a lot of others are doing a lot of great work. And obviously, safety is important, and so I wanna thank you for that update. It helps us to, when we get asked, we can address the public with a little more information, so thank you, Tina, for your efforts and your presentation. So we have Carl.
I don't think I can fully get us up to schedule, but,
You can't subtract 18 minutes? All right.
So I have two value abatements, that we're bringing forward today. The first one I have is Connie Bullock. This would be parcel 19002100. This is the parcel right across from the post office. And what occurred is she had a fire on February 19th of 24 here. And per our policy, we do have a fire abatement policy, so it's value tied. So she would be getting, she would pay the assessed value as of the 2 months that it was standing. And then the remainder of the time, the board would have the ability to abate the rest of the value for that. So that would be the first one I'm bringing forth today. So her total value or total building value is 96,500, and with the land included, her total value is 103,000. It's, the way we assess property is according to use. So it was split classified as residential commercial.
Okay.
Now I believe she is living 100% in the dog kennel. She does not have running water. She doesn't have septic or anything like that. So.
Do we need a motion on individually or together?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, got a second?
Second.
The discussion on the recommendation from Carl? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The second abatement, this occurred because of the computer event. This is one of the files that ended up getting lost. We did try recreate everything that was lost, from the file, but it was not perfect. So there could be others, that end up popping up, but I do feel like we did a good job of running through all the deeds and documents that came through. But in this situation, Jody Cruz, had lost or had tore down a building prior to the January 2nd assessment 24. Even our appraisers, I know it was in the notes, I just, I don't understand how I missed it. So, and we would have been able to fix this at the local board of appeal, but after the board adjourned, he then asked a question about this property. So it was, otherwise we could have taken care of it at that point. But so, this would be parcel 08003200. So his original estimated market value was 151,000. Our recommendation is to remove the house because it was tore down. Thanks to our new imagery, you can see where.
Is that opportunity or did Carl?
Yes. So you can see where the house was there in the original imagery, and the imagery that we just flew here in April, you can see that the house is gone.
Yeah.
So, again,
It was gone before January.
it was gone before January 7th, so. So our recommendation is to reduce the value to 82,300, and what would remain on the site would be just the grain building or the pole buildings that are out there and more.
Okay, is there a motion to accept that recommendation for Jody?
So.
Second,
Second.
additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Is that it, Carl?
That is it.
Highway, Aaron.
You can sign these afterwards and just give them to Chad.
Okay.
But if you need to sign as well on both of these. One there and. On the board right there.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the first thing is, Matt's credit card limit. We'd had to raise it, last week due to renewing our, Civil 3D subscription. Cause I was in that training the past 2 weeks, so my credit card was pretty tapped. So what we'd like to do is keep his credit card limit at 3,500, so every year we don't have to forget about it, and then our subscription expires, and then we have to up the limit just to renew the subscription, so the limit being staying at 3,500, so.
Is there a motion to increase that, for his recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, and then my second thing is I received 2 petitions to use ditch 8 as an outlet. And same thing as Mark Severance's stuff that happened last year, the year before. Right next to it, water's already going into ditch 8. And they're not paying a benefit. So it's Daniel Oaks, his property, and then Ronald McRoberts, but Daniel farms both these properties. So I just need to set a date for the hearing. And I was thinking the next board meeting, which I think is the 21st.
Yep.
So I just need a date and a time.
You sure all the hoaxes goes into that?
Yeah, cause all this stuff, it's right next to Mark Severance's. It goes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure someone goes south.
So this stuff, it's already outletting here.
Yeah, but. Where's this is the south quarter here.
Yes.
What's this one?
I don't know what that is.
That's the stuff from there goes south.
Okay.
You better look at it or better check it out.
Okay. Give me a second, I can just check it really quick.
I would say we would wanna schedule it for the first meeting in June, if not the second meeting in June.
Okay.
Cause eventually Doyle's gonna wanna finish planting.
Greg mentioned something about it, so that's all I.
Okay. Well. Let me just see if I can put this.
Well, he'll have time to figure that out. All we're doing is setting a meeting.
I was just gonna say that, so what, you gotta. Is it required that we do it that quick in 21st or not?
No,
So, someone wanna make a motion to first or second in June, is it? Whatever.
Second would probably be better.
Yeah.
So the second meeting in.
I'll make a motion to set it for the second meeting in June at 9:30.
Second.
what's that date?
Got the calendar up quick.
It'll be the 18th.
18th, yeah.
Is a motion and a second, is there additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay with that, Aaron?
Yep, and by me, I'll look at the LiDAR data and.
Yep.
See if that's what oil sands do.
Environmental.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be true.
Environmental services, they're not here, right? You wanna jump in and start yours, Matt?
Sure, I got a couple of gentlemen on phone.
I'm Todd Powers with Roar. My first item is, the UTV Grant and Aid Trail proposal. Todd here was with, the Runestone Off-Road ATV Riders Club. And he's been working with Douglas County to develop a trail network on roads in Douglas County, and this would be an extension of that. Over here into Grant County. It would be on a couple, it does get routed on a couple county roads, and then the remainder would be the township roads. I received this request, I don't know, roughly 3-4 weeks ago, I would say. I did forward it on to the townships that would be affected, and I also forwarded it on to the sheriff, so he's obviously aware of it as well. Now, I'm not the expert on Grant and Aid Trail System, that's why I asked Todd here to come here. If you guys have any questions about this, we'll try to answer them for you, and if you guys are okay with what they have proposed, they would move forward with the grant application to hopefully get funds for the trail network.
So what is it, I mean, are we talking about riding on the actual road or?
Yes. Not in the ditch.
So what would change if you get the grant and designate it part of the trail as opposed to where we are?
Well, legally, right now, you can drive side by side, on column side by side, class 1, class 2, so a side by side is class 2, so if you hear me say class 2, that's a side by side, so. You can drive side by side on county roads, tar, gravel, anywhere in the state of Minnesota. But not on trunk highways. 79, 27, all that stuff. So. The issue is now ATVs, you only can drive them on township roads. Well, they're all gonna dead end on a county road sooner or later, you can't get by it.
And most people think that, well, it's a gravel road, I can continue driving on it. Our issue, and we're a lot more heavily populated than Grant County. There was the DNR officer was pulling everybody over, driving on the county road. And he doesn't give tickets for it, he just gives warnings. Most of them are old guys on the way to town to get gas for their lawnmower, right? There's kids that drive around on it, but legally you can't be on the road without being 16 years of age with a license, driver's license, and of course your safety certificate. So the sheriff allowed us to try a program to put something together. And he was astonished. He was really surprised, and I know Troy personally, but he was really surprised that there was no issues or complaints about the trail system, you know, and of people tearing up the road and whatever have you with ATVs. He had more problems with outside that area and the rest of the county, a lot of complaints. Now, the grant aid, what reason why we went to grant aid, this is to allude to your question, is they pay for maintenance of the road. Okay. Home City Township declined it. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. And they gave up $10,000. Now their gas tax allotment is 28,000. They gave up a third, almost a third of additional funds for their roads for 4 miles of road that they had to mark out for the Grand Trail. Which to me is silly because it's township roads, so you can still drive on with ATVs and UTVs. If, I'm gonna leave you this here magazine, or it's not a magazine, it's actually a atlas of all the trails in Minnesota. It's all put on by the state, they're all trails in this entire state. But up here in the northwest corner, pay a little more attention to around Roar Road and whatever have you. They figured out that, gee, if the state's gonna pay for, you know, for the allowing ATVs on the road, we're gonna put a lot of our county or township roads in there, and they have. This is not tax money that we're using or you're getting. This is from licensing only for the ATVs, and I don't need to tell you, ATVs and side-by-sides, especially side-by-sides, exploded. I mean, the population of them is crazy. I mean, I bet you $5 that most of you guys here have one. Maybe not. Maybe you don't want nothing to do with them, I don't know, but, the whole point of that is we want to be able to get over to into your county to get past 29. That's a trunk highway. To drive down a road ditch, to get approval for that on the state highway is a pain in the head. Well, it'll happen. It just, there's a lot of stuff, you get a lot of hoops you gotta jump through. And honestly, we wanna keep people out of the road ditch, because that brings a whole different problem with road ditches and erosion and everything else. We wanna, and then you have a beautiful area east of your county, and West Douglas County is beautiful. What our Parks Department, which is Brad Bonk, I don't know if you guys know who Brad Bonk is, he wants to connect, he's opening up our parks to ATVs. So he wants to connect Runestone to Douglas County Chippewa Park. From there, we're gonna go over to Rose City area. And that's the whole loop we want to get down to Osakis, then back. But there's some obstacles. And the other thing is we want to get to Melby. And we want to go through parts of York County to do so. Which is fine. If you don't want to, that's, but this is our proposal. We want to tie Hoffman in with, you know, different venues all the way along there. We avoid, like lakes, Elk Lake, we avoided going around the area, so to stay away from, heavily populated areas that would be annoyed with four-wheelers. Some people just don't like them. So we stayed away from that. We stay on roads that really are sparsely populated. But that's the goal. We don't want to upset people. We want to just move around. And eventually, someday, the legislature is gonna change their tune and then classify ATVs and UTVs as the same. All the rest of the states all around us consider them the same unit, except Minnesota. They have them separated and it's frustrating. So if you have a group of guys that are riding and one of them's got a four-wheeler, you ain't going nowhere. You're, the rest of the guys are gonna take off and go anywhere in the state you want, and believe it or not, you can go pretty much anywhere in the state of Minnesota with a side-by-side, you can get quite a ways. Get with a ATV. So that's our proposal. Douglas County will write the grant for you. You also, I forgot to give you this, they also already, whether you know it or not, the ATV park that you guys got over here. We take care of not the upkeep, but we go out and check the signs or whatever have you. Tracy took care of this. I don't know if you are responsible for that part of it or not. You're already writing grants. You already know how that kind of works. We would write the grant for you. Brad said he would write the grant for you. Just because we're trying to get you guys involved. And then go to township meetings and explain. You would come over with us and explain, so we're clear on and then what the benefits are. You're not gonna get people from Minneapolis driving all the way up here to drive gravel roads. It's not that at all. It's just make corridors for ATVs to move about the county a little easier, and that's what our whole point was. It doesn't mean you're not gonna be getting in a place where you can't drive it, you know, it's gonna happen, but we don't want to see this turn into this or that thing. We wanna be able to move these ATVs through the county like anybody else. And tie the businesses together with it. Really basically the same system of the club.
So do you have a recommendation, Matt, what we should do today?
Yeah, I guess I don't have any concerns about it. It's not gonna really affect any of the county roads since they're paved in this area.
So Todd, you know, what do we need a motion to do what?
Just, I guess, a motion to proceed with the grant application. So,
Yep. Well, no, first, we got a couple steps we gotta get in between here, so it's townships first.
Yep.
So we're gonna go see the townships, then we'll come back and say, okay, Matt probably will just come in and say, okay, we got approval from the townships, start proceeding with the grant.
So then do we need any motion today or just our?
I don't think you need a motion today, but
Just our voice.
basically permission to move forward
To move forward.
to the next
Address the
steps.
township.
Yep.
So basically, it's the townships, it's in their ball, it's in their court.
Yeah, if they don't want it, then they can say, no, we don't want no four-wheelers on our roads except for our own. Which,
So what you need from our board is the permission to apply for the grant if that's,
when it comes to it,
yeah, okay.
we don't want to go behind your back and start setting this all up and then present it to you guys and say, hey, it's kind of backwards, you know, that would be a slap in your face and that's not our intention.
If there's maintenance money, why wouldn't we apply for all of our roads?
I don't know. That's the whole point. There is a lot of maintenance money.
It's happening, whether it's a.
Well, and it's, the thing is, it's already, the law's already there allowing movement with ATVs, but only up to a gravel or up to a county road, and that's your guys' level. But you have no control over that. You can't say you can't drive a ATV on our county roads, right? That's a state law. So it's just making it so an ATV can ride. I say that wrong. UTV can ride on your county roads, ATV can't. So it's just to move it to they're the same entity.
So to Matt, to Troy's comment, is this thing bigger than what we need to by consensus address today, or is that a future discussion, or?
well, I guess I've never really looked into what they're doing up in Roseville County. This is kind of the first I've heard of it, but it's something we can look into.
So for today, by consensus, we agree that they should proceed with the.
I'm gonna just show you real quick here. This is what, these are all the trails and everything else, but I want you to look up here.
Notice all these here little, they're all blocked out. They're not. You're not going through a woods. You're going through gravel roads. And that's the point. They figured out that, well, we can get a lot of money, just like you said. Well, why aren't we opening up the whole county to it? Eventually, our goal, if this works and you are accepted to it, is to tie the youth ATV park over here and Melby. Unless you go for the whole county, then it's,
Well, and if, I mean, if you're doing specific, the ATV park and then Pine Ridge Park. They're not too far apart, really. That would be, if you gotta start somewhere, to me, that would be the. Tying those into Melby or into that trail system that.
Were you not here quite a few years ago? You never been to this board, up at the courthouse? Nope. Okay, so it's a different party, because you were from Allen, correct? Yep. It was a different party that was kind of talking about this.
well, they probably were talking about the youth club.
Yes.
The youth, yes, we, we're tied together with that.
Okay.
And we, promote that or whatever have you. It's just that it's one of them parks that are. I don't wanna say this because it's gonna say it wrong. It was set up for training for youth, for going through there and getting there.
Yep.
So it's not a destination that people are gonna get to drive over there, ride 2 miles of trails. And then load up and go home. But if you can drive over there, let the kids run around or whatever have you, and then move out and go to another spot, that's the goal. And that'll bring more exposure to that park.
And lion's share of this grant dollars is gonna have to go into signage, correct?
Other than
No, no
the
signage.
signage is, we pay $2,000. Or almost $4,000, but that is initially the first. Jump of it, yeah, that's the cost of the first part of it. After that, the signs are up, then they're after the same amount of money.
And like the snowmobile trails, they maintain their own signage and all that stuff, and you guys would maintain that as well.
Yes, so what would happen there is our snowmobile club, basically the same members.
Okay.
We actually have a full-time guys on our snowmobile club staff. So they would come over, they would actually put the signs in for you, you don't have to do that. With your approval on where you want them and what your rules are. This always falls into some rules. So we'll put the signs in for you, we would maintain the signs. They would not be your responsibility, we'd take care of the signs and report damage. There's, I personally am what they call a trail ambassador, and we drive the trails. And make sure there's no damage in what's happening, and we report it to the DNR. They make sure that it gets repaired, fixed. It's kind of a ridiculous thing. I'm a member of ROAR. I ride the trails to go see if they're damaged. The trails that we all set up, I report to the DNR. The DNR comes back to me and tells me I gotta go fix them. It's kind of funny, but that's the way it works. That's Minnesota. You gotta have paperwork.
So I think what I'm hearing is we should proceed. And we can continue to maybe do some research on a larger scale in the future, and with that, thank you, Todd, and we'll.
Yep.
Keep on with our agenda.
I got one more question. You're gonna talk to 2 townships down there? Is that what the deal is?
Yes,
Land
and I'll be in contact with Matt, and we'll figure out what. If you wanna call me or whatever have you, and make the arrangements on when it is. But this is something that ain't gonna happen this year. Obviously, we want this in place to propose the grant for next year. So it's just the way it is.
And if you're talking, bigger parts of the county, you should probably come to the all township meeting on first Tuesday in March. That'd be there's 16 townships there then.
Yep, and we went to Alex, all township meeting.
Yeah.
Or Douglas County, not Alex. Yeah. All right,
Okay,
I'll get on your hair then.
thank you, Todd. Thank you. Thank you. Matt, you got more?
Yep, I got 3 more items. The next item is the contract and bonds for Casella 82, which is the resurfacing project heading north out of Ashby with Central Specialties. A couple of weeks ago, you guys approved the bids for the project.
So now the contracts are back from Central Specialties and just looking for approval of and appropriate signatures on the contracts and bonds.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
You really think it needs repairing?
With that,
We got a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I don't
There's a recommendation from the highway committee.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you. And the next item is the construction engineering for the Kasai 82 project. You have an agreement with Moore Engineering in front of you. It's an hourly contract. Typically, construction services end up being about 7 to 8% of the total construction cost. So this is based on, it's difficult to put an exact number on what you think it's gonna cost when it comes to construction based on who you're working with, but Central Specialties has always been a very well managed firm, so everything should go smoothly. So with this agreement, it's just hourly, based on their hourly rates for the construction engineering with Moore Engineering. We look for approval of that.
So some of the, is this kind of a boilerplate, and they lined out stuff that doesn't pertain?
Yep, that's the way they do it.
Is there a motion to approve that based on Matt's recommendation?
Don't move.
Second,
second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the last item is an agreement with Burlington Northern Santa Fe. If you recall back when we were working on the 5-year transportation plan, one of the projects was redoing this crossing at County Road 33 just south of Herman there. This agreement here is the cost for Burlington Northern Santa Fe to replace the crossing there. It's currently, I believe, old timber beams and rough shape, so it costs, it's up $1,000 a foot, so they pencil in about $40,000 to do the work, and they would do it at the same time as we're doing our work on the road to fix that crossing. So just looking for approval to enter into this agreement with Burlington Northern.
Don't move.
Second,
Second.
discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Did I get you back on time?
You're doing good.
All right.
I don't know what happened to Greg.
I just texted Greg, so.
Oh, okay, thank you, Aaron. That's all you had?
That's all I had.
Yeah, then we could squeeze you in before Mr. Wilmot.
I bet you I can get you back next time.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep, I'll have signatures for you in a bit here.
Okay.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, Matt.
I am looking for, approval to purchase 14,000 ton of gravel. Which to the lowest bidder, which is Mark Sand and Gravel at $5.19 a ton. Total dollar amount $72,660. I'm looking for a motion to do that.
It's all roughly budgeted.
Yep. We're
So-
under the budget amount, so
It's quite a bit less than the others, wasn't it?
yes, it was.
Were you surprised at that?
I was a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, so, which is a good deal for us.
Your motion?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any
All right, I got a discussion. Where's that gravel gonna be?
It'll be up here by our brown pit. It'll be up towards the North County line.
Okay, so it'll be, you know, on their land, right?
It'll be on their land. yes.
Okay.
So, and we load it or?
Yeah, we'll have our loader, up there, and we'll load up and,
So will this scale we bought for the loader come into play in something like this?
yes, it will.
So we'll be able to,
Know exactly, well, really close to how much is we've used out of it and where we're at for usage.
does their equipment have that kind of stuff, do you think?
Oh, yeah,
So they,
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
For years.
yep, so.
okay, did we have a motion or? Yeah, we did, didn't we? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Littlemore.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, I got a couple things on the agenda, I guess, as you see. First one is gonna be, now that we've got Ruben on board in my office, one of the things that's come up is obviously he'll be going to some trainings and workshops and meetings occasionally. And I'd like authorization for him to be able to get a credit card so that if he needs to, you know, like I say, buy something or stay overnight somewhere or something, he has the ability to have a credit card, so. And I believe policy is to come to you guys for permission to do that.
Is there a standard dollar amount we put on that?
$1,000 unless you note otherwise.
Right, and that would be more than plenty, I'm assuming.
A
Yeah.
motion to that effect?
So move.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right,
Carried.
thank you guys, appreciate that. Okay, then the other thing is I've been keeping you guys abreast of our Grant County Shoreland Ordinance. And we're going into the formal review process right now. And if you guys recall, when we were working with a law firm out of the cities on the Dollar General project, they are kind of our state go-to on planning and zoning. They do a lot of work with municipalities, whether it's in ordinances or labor negotiations, all that, you know, that's kind of their niche, is working with county governments. Well, anyways, what a lot of counties end up doing is when they get to the final stages of their ordinance, they will ship them off to a law firm that's their specialty to ensure that we aren't creating, I don't know if loopholes is the right, you say I'm right? So what I'm suggesting is I would entertain and I would like to bring in a third party to review the ordinance that we now have in place or going to have in place. So that if we run into another, I don't know if you want to call it a Dollar General scenario, or, you know, a scenario with a lot of angst or a lot of potential for lawsuit, that we have a solid ordinance. And I reached out to that law firm, and if you recall, was it Troy, were you on the board, Dollar General, or was it you?
Me.
I think it was you, but you remember her, she was online with us from, Kirsten was her name. Near Garden, it doesn't matter, yeah. So anyways, I reached out to her and asked her, you know, roughly what they thought it would cost. And her good guesstimate with a 50-page ordinance is between $3,500 and $4,500. So, and I typically, in my budget this year, I have $2,500 for legal services. So I'm a little, I'm either 1,000 or 2,000 short. Recommendation would be for us to invest that money in getting this ordinance reviewed. And it will be the basis or the template, because as you know, we're gonna have to redo our solid waste ordinance and try to do that next winter. So this template would be in place for us to build on, right?
So before we get to that review, which I'm fine with doing that, is have we addressed the terminology in our ordinance that conflicts with the practices of what Boise to Sioux is doing? So we don't have to.
You're referring to the buffer component?
Correct.
Correct, okay. So with that then being said, that's a kind of a different monster in itself, because the shoreline ordinance addresses rivers and it doesn't address public ditches. So we have our own ordinance for ditches, right?
Okay.
So that standalone ordinance for ditches is gonna have to get altered as well, depending on what direction you guys wanna do. Because we have in that ordinance, we address how enforcement occurs on those ditches. Right? So we have an ordinance for rivers We have an ordinance for ditches.
Okay, so let's get back to I'll make a motion to.
Okay.
The review of the ordinance.
Okay.
Of the land, the. Shoreland ordinance.
Right, okay,
Okay, we got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now, in the discussion, you want him to further?
No, we'll get to that once we've got this.
right, and I think I can get some clarity there,
Okay.
yeah.
So is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So yeah, then, the ditch ordinance. What do we have to do to make that so we can hand the Boise to Sioux ditches? over?
Right, so,
I think that's the
Still
intent of
here.
the board.
yes, so with that then being said, we've been having some conversations. And I believe tomorrow we're actually gonna meet with Justin just for a little more clarity. If you guys are proposing that transition, how we make that happen smoothly, because the piece that's maybe still hanging out there is that enforcement piece, right?
Because, I mean, realistically, my opinion is we should get. If we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it this year, we need to have our public hearing by the end of August.
For the Boise Sioux take
If
over?
we're gonna hand the ditches over to Boise to Sioux yet this year. My opinion is we need to have it done, we need to have our public hearing by the end of August. So that we don't get into September and harvest.
Right, well, and the other piece would be too, maybe for Chad, from a 25 taxing thing, things might change a little bit too, I don't know if that impacts much. Okay, I just didn't know if there'd maybe be something going on there with who has the authority over those ditches and taxing it. But, so it's my understanding you guys are talking about this again at the next meeting? Or at least
I don't.
considering it,
I- We probably tabled it, I don't remember.
okay, I didn't know if you guys had put it on the
Boise Sioux
docket to
Right.
talk about the ditch transfer.
Well,
I think you
originally,
tabled it.
Aaron and I had, I think originally we talked about the
End
21st
of May.
meeting,
Okay,
but then subsequently we had this discussion.
right, okay,
And I'd called to wish Jared well in his
Oh, right.
adventure, and you were in the meeting, so
Yep.
so take us back there.
okay,
And because what I heard is what we have is adequate and we should not change it.
right, okay,
Now, How
so,
does that fit
yes,
with Troy's?
right, so that was kind of the idea behind the meeting with Justin tomorrow, just so everybody can get some clarity. And then we can come to you guys and explain, but I think I can do an okay job. So as I said before, rivers and lakes, there's a buffer law. And those are handled through our shoreline ordinance. Now we have our public ditches that are handled in Grant County under a standalone ordinance. It's not the shoreline ordinance, it's the ditch buffer ordinance, right? So we have this ordinance that says that every single ditch in Grant County that we administer has to have a buffer on it. Right? Everybody follow it, right? Does that make sense? Everybody has to have a buffer, right? So how that then works in our ordinance is the Soil and Water Office is responsible for doing review of every one of those ditches to make sure they have a buffer. Okay, and if they don't, then what they do is they send the information right now currently to Aaron. Right? So then Aaron is the enforcement component and he sends a letter to the landowner. Okay? So from the enforcement standpoint, there is an out for the landowner. He can say that I am not going to put in a 16-foot grass buffer. Because I have negative slope and the water doesn't run to the river, I'm only gonna, or the ditch, I'm only gonna put grass at the inlets. So that is an approved way to avoid having Aaron get a letter sent, sending a letter, right? Everybody follow that's how that works? So now moving forward, if Boise de Sioux takes over those ditches, we have an ordinance in place that says this is how enforcement occurs. Soil and Water does the review. And then now if Boise de Sioux takes those ditches over, Boise de Sioux then will get the letter from the Soil and Water. It won't get sent to Aaron, it'll get sent to Boise de Sioux. So where the little hiccup is Boise de Sioux is saying, well, when we're in Wilkin County and Traverse County where we administer, the program is a little different. Right? We allow more things than Grant County does. Everybody follow that?
For alternative.
For alternative practices.
So, but when you started that on this standalone ordinance, you said for the counties that, or for the ditches that Grant County administers.
Right,
So if they're Boise to Sioux ditches, we're not administering.
right.
So do they become exempt?
We
from
would
our
take,
ordinance?
yes, we would, but, so here's where the difficulty comes in, and that's why we're trying to meet with Justin. Is now, state law says the soil and water district is the one who's responsible for identifying the problem and coming up with a solution. Right? In Grant County, our solution is different than Traverse and Wilkin. Right? We say this is the one solution to not having 16.5 feet of grass. Okay? So now when we take and hand them over to Boise de Sioux and we wipe those ditch systems off our map, now the heartache comes with the state of Minnesota and who's supposed to enforce it. Because if we're telling Boise de Sioux, they have to enforce it. Boise de Sioux is saying, well, we're not gonna do it that way. But we have an ordinance that kind of says you have to do it that way. So that's the.
But I mean, what Boise de Sioux is doing is perfectly legal.
Yes, yeah, there's nothing illegal going on, it's just, how are we gonna enforce that buffer? That's the hiccup.
So we wanna go with what Boise de Sioux does?
Well,
Well, let me, according to Jared,
the state won't allow Boise de Sioux to do it the way they wanna do it, is what's going on right now. Boise de Sioux has gotten a formal letter from the state of Minnesota saying, Grant County is giving you money, everybody's giving you money to enforce this. And they're trying to be, they're trying to find alternative solutions that are kind of pushing the envelope. Does that sound okay, right? They are trying to give the landowners an out that the state of Minnesota doesn't necessarily think is appropriate.
well, and soil and water, I mean, Jared said we do not want to go backwards on this.
Right.
And so, and my point was to Troy, and I called Aaron, we gotta get this decided ahead of this
Right.
hearing. If we were gonna have it on the 20th.
So now what we're
I heard your
right.
question the last meeting, and
So there's a lot of good clarity, but there's still this little legal thing that Justin and, what's his, the boys that suit? Yeah, right, those guys are, right, trying to kind of iron out. So that if this transfer does happen, we're not creating a situation where the Boise de Sioux thinks that Grant County is gonna do the legal enforcement when we're not administering it, right? So there's just some little nuances we gotta work out. And I think we can get there, but we just need to all be on the same page.
They kind of fit according to what the landowner kind of wants. As far as an inverted and whether they needed an inverted and things like that. So that's kind of, they're working with the landowners for that buffer portion.
Right, they're trying to be, Boise de Sioux is trying to be a strong advocate for the landowner and
Yes,
give them more options.
correct.
And some of those options are getting, according to the state, are getting outside of the boundaries of what's acceptable. So there's a couple things going on, right? There's that little sidebar with their attorney in the state of Minnesota. But then when we hand these ditches over, if that's the direction you choose to go, then we still have some legal things that Justin's trying to work out with the Boise de Sioux attorney on, here's our policy, and if you're gonna not enforce it, then there's just some little nuances we gotta work out.
don't we have to decide whether we're gonna change what soil and water have got in place? Isn't that our core decision?
Partially. It's not, that's one core decision, and there's still an outstanding question of who does the enforcement.
So there's two questions.
Yes,
And at what point we're gonna meet with Justin tomorrow and he's gonna weigh in on what piece?
both.
Okay, so do we need to have some clarity as far as what we bring to that meeting?
I would say it's hard, I don't wanna speak on the soil and water's behalf, because that board has made some decisions that is that Bowser is saying is the way that Bowser being the state is agreeing with Grant County and not agreeing with Boise Sioux. So for you guys, we almost need to get the soil and water group at the table too, their board. So Brent is going to be there tomorrow representing them. So I think this thing is, where I'm going with this thing is still kind of a piece of putty that we need to mold. And I don't know if there's any final decisions or recommendations. It's hard for you guys to know what to recommend when you don't even know all the
Details.
right. So there's still things we gotta get our head around.
So,
Right.
and Aaron and I talked, so having this next meeting on the 21st, we gotta get this.
Maybe a little premature.
Yeah,
Right.
so, go ahead, Aaron.
Before August, I think is extreme.
Yeah, I would agree too. And even,
I think we could get it done within the next month.
yeah, I do too, right?
So,
And it might even be something in June after all the crops are in.
Yeah.
Right?
so do we address after this meeting with Justin, this thing, should this be on the agenda on the 21st? With Brent in the room, so, because at some point we have to answer Troy our question, right, Troy?
Well, the answer to my question is Greg coming back and saying, yeah, we're ready to go.
Yeah, and
I mean,
really,
do I need to sit down and go through a meeting with Justin about all the details in there? Or am I gonna take Greg and Justin, Aaron's word to say, yeah?
yeah, and
we're
I
ready?
think that's kind of where we're headed, or what we should be doing, but
Yeah.
as long as if you, whether it's you as the chair, or if we want to do the highway committee thing, or however, just so one of you understands, right, because we can, having you five at, right, right, you know what I mean, it's just, you can take our recommendation, but what my role in this really is just because I understand ordinances, right? This is a issue between the soil and water and the highway department, and I'm just kind of trying to be your guys' advisor to helping Aaron, because these damn ordinances are complicated, right? And that's my wheelhouse, and
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to give good advice to you guys.
Technical advisory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So then we can assume that maybe.
So if you put it on the next agenda, it wouldn't be a decision. It would be more like an update.
A recommendation or an update.
Yes.
That's.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right?
Okay.
It isn't like we want to publish it in the paper and saying the board's making a decision.
Yep, and then
Right.
I asked them, and it's 2 weeks notice in the newspaper for when we're ready to have that hearing.
Right. So there's not a whole, I mean,
Well, I mean,
We're
we're not
close.
gonna do it before the end of June anyway, because we just set a public hearing to decide outlets in a ditch that we wanna get rid of.
yeah, right.
So it's gonna be after June anyway.
Okay, yeah. Because I saw that it wasn't ditch aid or something that, right, yeah. Is there somebody trying to petition in or something, I think, right? So that we talked about.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I had to walk out to take that call. Now, did you guys pass this resolution 240501? Did you guys do that yet?
No.
Okay, you haven't done any of that yet? Okay, you know, this resolution to adopt and implement the Chippewa River Comprehensive Management Plan, you were talking about that in the beginning when I walked out, right?
Oh, I wasn't.
Oh,
No. That's
in the end. Do we have more on your piece? Or are you good on the?
I'm good. Yeah,
Okay.
as far as the two things that I brought forward,
Okay.
right, and then the conversation about the ditch system stuff. That, I think you guys approved the review and the credit card. And then, other stuff I have is just fluff that I could share with you if you got a minute, but you don't have to.
I thought
So-
some of your board back.
Right.
So we wanna address that number 8 is that basically the comprehensive plan is the public review and it's gone through all the bells and whistles and.
Right.
And
I did talk to Brent about that yesterday. And that resolution is present. Now, I don't know if you've had that 100%. You have it filled out ready for signature, or?
it's here,
It's,
yeah.
okay. So Brent is gonna present, the Soil and Water District will also present that, right?
Yeah.
And Brent is the water planner. So I suppose in theory, you could do it today. Brent is in agreement and we all, at that technical level, think it's ready. But if you want Brent to also sit here as the water planner, right, you could wait until the next meeting to adopt that resolution. So, but if you're comfortable with it, it's,
Yeah, I was at the meeting of the public hearing, there was basically no comments.
yeah,
I think this thing has been
Yep,
And Houston Engineering, I mean, this thing is pretty, seems like it's
right.
pretty well oiled.
Yeah, it's a good plan, so.
So I would say, I
Yeah.
would encourage a motion to adopt resolution 24-0501.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair, for resolution 24-0.
For the comprehensive, or the Chippewa
Resolution to
River.
adopt and implement.
Yeah.
And that is, the plan is consistent with the one watershed, one plan.
Yep, that's the
Okay,
whole
so then-
goal of
So
it.
then, okay, now I'm the delegate, Doyle's the alternate for the Boyd Sioux on this one watershed, one plan. Now, this is a different district. Would there be different commissioners that would be on those roles?
That's, I think, how you guys have set it up, because we also have the Pond de Terre one as well,
Right.
right? So now Grant County, with this being adopted, rather than having one plan for Grant County, we're gonna have a Boys de Sioux Mustinka, we're gonna have a Pond de Terre, and we're gonna have a Chippewa. We're gonna have 3 water plans that fall within the boundaries of the watershed versus the boundaries of Grant County.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Some additional discussion?
So in there, it said that Grant County is in charge of the enforcement of that plan. When is the Chippewa River gonna be like the Boise de Sioux that?
I don't think ever, unless you guys want that. There's not a big,
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like.
but the enforcement part, I mean, it's more the implementation. These water plans really don't have any enforcement teeth unless you explicitly write in there that, right? And that's something that you guys would be well versed in before you ever made a decision on enforcement of a water plan. But our role at the county is to follow through and go after money and try to do voluntary things. This is not, it's not a taxing district. It doesn't have any permitting authority or anything, so
It'll never be a taxing authority
unless,
unless we designate it as a
Right.
taxing authority. Because this is already taken care of through the Boyd Sioux over here.
Yep.
So we would have to implement that taxing districts, you know, or
it would take every county in that watershed to agree to that.
Correct.
So I don't think that,
No, that
There's
issue.
right,
Any other additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
okay, I'll let Brent know that you guys adopted that today.
Okay,
Yep, I don't think he won't mind that. He's probably happy that that's done, something off his plate. Okay,
sounds good. You
All right.
have anything else? Or you good?
no, just, things are going good. I guess I was
Just up-
just wondering where we're at with Ruben is trying to get a bunch of his software loaded today, but as far as space needs, should I work with Jeff or who should I be talking to about
That's what-
getting up to the courthouse at some point in the future?
So the motion, and it's been accepted, they gotta sign it that the May 20th.
Oh, okay.
Or
All
before.
right, I didn't,
Or earlier, based on the conditions.
okay,
Now, I don't know, I don't know if anyone's had any discussion as far as the conditions. But
okay, yeah, I just want to know who to work with, if it's Jeff or if I should reach out to Jim or how you guys want me to
Well, I
handle
think
it.
I think as we see that evolving,
Okay,
the one thing I think it should be understood, whether it's yourself or any of your staff or Jeff, that it's not our responsibility to move them out.
okay, yeah,
I think,
Okay.
you'll have to be responsible for moving yourself in, and
Right.
if there needs to be supervision on the move, that can be Jeff, but.
right. And we've got 2 file folders right now that Ruben is trying to scan. So that the paper that we move almost doesn't exist, it's all digitally. So
That's,
all it's gonna be for the most part is picking up our desks and computers and
yeah,
we'll have to try to coordinate with the IT people, I guess, but. So we got a pickup so we can move most of our stuff ourselves.
but that's in place, so. We're pursuing.
Okay, right.
Anything else, or we good?
I think so, just a lot of things going on with the solid waste, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's busy. we're gonna step up and help, the city of Elbows having their cleanup, so. I think that's May 22nd, so we're gonna try to have the recycling center open.
Yeah,
And then the city is actually gonna pay for anybody that brings anything in from the city, so,
oh, okay,
yeah. So that'll be a little bit of a twist or a change, so.
yeah,
Otherwise, things are going good, guys.
thank you, Greg.
All right, thank you.
Community actions, the ARPA fund request for their housing. That was in the packet, 115,000. For a motion to pay that.
Well, before we get to that, are we, cause normally our process is we reimburse after they're, I mean. I wanna ask Chad if he's comfortable that we're gonna get what we need as far as where this money went for the reporting. Cause I mean, I'm not against doing it this way where they get the money and then they spend it, it's just, that's not how we've done this. I'm worried about getting those.
I would make the recommendation that we approve the request, but do not issue funds until the project is either started or there's a reimbursement.
You
Invoice.
can put my name down on that motion.
I'll second that, but then, in my opinion, you gotta have a narrative on what she's doing, right? Meaning the build and where it's at and, some of the feedback.
Ain't my problem.
I know. But that's kind of what I'd like to see
I
follow.
believe when you were here at all those meetings, when she was here, you delegated all that true West Central Community Action.
Yep.
As far as where they're gonna be built and how they're gonna be built.
But we typically, want a narrative on what's happening.
We could ask for an update from her as to
Yes.
the progress and what they're planning on doing.
Right.
I'm certain.
Well, there's, I forget the acronym, the houses. Help me out, Troy.
Well, houses, I don't.
Yep.
The project.
Yeah.
WCMCA.
No,
I mean, what the land trust.
Oh, the land trust?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure what program or what they're doing at that.
yeah, the CLT, Community Land Trust Program, I got the paperwork from her presentation, some of the other meetings, so. It'll be that program. And they've done these, we've done a lot of these, so it isn't like they're new to the game, so. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hold, carried. Committee reports.
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
On, from probation, we met, a couple, 3 weeks ago, but, so that money that we got, that's coming, that came in from the state. So they're doing well in that area. I got the information out of my truck that was out there, but the only, I asked, is there anything else in that will ever come our way as far as the levy issue for us? And they said, well, they're some past employees, there's 2 or 3 of them, they have, with their contract or whatever, when they retired, that, their supplements get paid by these 5 counties. And, he said, right now, we're paying that with probation fees, so we're okay. But just in the future, it might be a little bit, if the probation fees go away or whatever. But it didn't amount to too much money. I just wanted the board to be aware of that.
What's the supplements? What is that?
Well, like, I suppose like a Medicare supplement, they must have had it negotiated for these people,
Forever?
so they die. Yeah.
Oh,
So I didn't know about that, so that's, and I think there was 2 or 3 employees there maybe. So.
that's an agreement we had.
Yeah, that was, it's been in effect, I guess, they, back in the days where, they didn't want to give raises, but the insurance was cheap, so they would sit that way, Okay, so.
And this, do we need any documentation that relates to this, if we're taking this future liability on, or do we just? I mean, it's not that I don't believe it, but
No, yeah, I suppose I can get some from them. It's always, I guess we've always been doing that, paying
Yeah.
that since they retired, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least we don't have to levy. What was it, Chad? It was like, wasn't our share of that probation, like 58,000 a year or something like that? And now we don't have to, we haven't been levying for that now. I think it was like,
Around 50-some thousand we got. Keep in mind, we were only getting a small portion back
right,
prior to the end of 2023, and then the state kicked in a very large, like, well more than we were paying.
yeah,
And so there was a question as to what you could use that money for. Which was part of our 2024 budget that was approved. Which made our budget look really well, considering we were gonna get 110,000, 120,000, we paid. It would be some of that 1,000 out, right, that's of course switched now beginning of this year, where we don't get the reimbursement,
Yeah.
we also pay Travis County.
and the state wanted it to go into Traverse County, their fiscal host on it.
sure. Anything else, any other committee reports that should come before us? Think we've got it covered, otherwise I'll adjourn the meeting at 11:52. Thank you. Precisely 18 minutes late. You need some signatures?
All right, Billy, I'll see you tonight.